So back at the flea market, building in front of me right there used to have 3 vinyl record vendors. Then over there, building number 1 used to have 2 vinyl vendors. That little shack over there used to have 1 vinyl vendor. It's been 5 months since I've been here last, so we'll have a look and see what vendors are still around. It's a warm summer day, so it's possible that there might be some vendors out in the parking lot as well. Have a look and see what happens.
Oh, I have a meal. You want a meal? The one with meal. Oh, that's what it's called up. No, you want a bit different than meal. Oh, it's a spider. I asked him today, he's coming down. Oh,
Hi VC. So I made that trip out to the flea market. It's about a 20-minute drive from my house. I have to admit I was a little bit disappointed. In that first building where I mentioned there are 3 vendors, as it turned out 2 vendors had their stalls open and 1 vendor that particular day decided not to show up. So there were 2 vendors there. In building number 1 where there's normally 2 vendors, also 1 vendor decided not to show up that day, leaving just 1 vinyl vendor, and that individual has just a very small selection, maybe 5 crates of records if that. And then in that shack off to one side where there was a vinyl vendor, apparently, well, I knew he had moved out in January, but the website indicated that he was there, so I thought he had come back, when in fact he had not come back. So that shows that flea market's website is at least 5 months out of date. Anyways, I didn't pick up too much. I did pick up one that I was sort of looking for. Glad I found it. It fills a hole in my collection for Pink Floyd, and it is Relics. This is the Harvest pressing. There's a bit of water damage on the front down here. a tiny bit on the back. The vinyl itself was really good, very good. A little bit of scuffing, paper scuffs, but other than that, the vinyl is excellent. This is sort of fills a hole for my Pink Floyd. I wanted to get this one for a while, and I've got pretty much most of their studio albums, so at some point maybe I'll make a video on the Pink Floyd stuff. The first vendor where I show flipping through the records, he had 25% off everything that day. I didn't see anything that I really liked, nothing that stood out, and there's a few things that I didn't recognize, but the prices were pretty high to start with, like $60 or whatever, so I didn't even bother following up on those. The second vendor, the second piece where I'm flipping through, where you see that Wonder Woman comic book record towards the end, that's where I picked up 3 from that individual, and that includes the Pink Floyd. That particular vendor had if records are $10 or less, you get 2 for 1. So basically you're paying like $5 for a record. If records are priced at more than $10, it's 25% off. And generally his prices are pretty reasonable to start with. So that's why I got this Pink Floyd. It was priced over $10, but not a great deal over. So it's pretty good. You saw me flipping through. I hit a couple of those Devos, so I ended up picking them up. Works out to $5 a piece. I'm a fan of Devo's earlier stuff. Some of their later stuff, not a super huge fan on. But for $5, the records are in great shape. I figured, why not? I have their first 3 albums at least, anyways. I didn't have these 2, so I picked those 2 up. One thing when I'm wandering around, and if I see a record by an artist whose primary career is not singing, but maybe an actor or an actress, something like that, and if the record is in good shape and priced really low, I'll usually pick it up just sort of as a novelty item. Just a couple, just to show you, to illustrate. I didn't get these at the show, but for example, here, Tina Louise, that's Ginger from Gilligan's Island. Another example of what I'm referring to is Peggy Lipton from the Mod Squad. I think Mod Squad was a TV show around the late 60s. So when I see records like that, I'll try and pick them up. I said the price low, and so I found one at the vendor in building number 1, price cheap. Otherwise, I wouldn't have really picked up. And it's just Twiggy, and probably even price cheap, I wouldn't picked it up. But it came with a poster. The poster was there, and so I figured, well, why not? Her music is sort of almost, I would say, almost like a very light pop country music. Not really my taste, but like I said, if I'm picking up, in her case, I guess she was a fashion model, but if I see records put out by fashion models, actresses, or whatever, and they're price cheap, I'll just pick them up and sort of add them to the novelty section of my collection. So that's pretty much all I've got at that flea market. I'm still missing the flea market that used to be by my house. It was about a 20-minute walk or a 3-minute drive. It was open on Sundays. I went there every Sunday for 10 years, and unfortunately it closed about 1.5 years ago. The landowner is going to repurpose the land, so they had to pack it in. And that's really unfortunate, because that was the center for vinyl collectors in the years that it was running. In the building itself, there was always at least 5 or 6 vinyl sellers who had a very good collection of records for sale. And in the summer, when the vinyl shows were not running, it was normal to have 4 or 5 vinyl sellers out in the parking lot, selling out of the back of their vans or wherever. They set up tables with little tents over them, and it was an incredible place for buying or selling records. And unfortunately it closed. This flea market now is about a 20-minute drive, not very good. It's the first time, I think the last time I was there was in February. I don't plan on going back, probably at least for another 2 or 3 months. Really for now, all it is basically the vinyl shows are the only thing really that's worth visiting. Anyways, as always, thank you for watching. Have a great day.